Hi, everyone. I'm Henry DeVries from Forbes.com. Welcome. Very exciting program today, and we're so glad that you've come to this summit. Our host for today, our lead speaker, is someone who's been called America's digital content futurist. Where we're going with the future of that. You see two of her books up there on the wall, Weathering the Digital Storm, and something I was proud to co-author with her, Persuade with a Digital Content Story, which is now an award-winning book, and so pleased to have that. Lisa is the founder of Three Dog Right, one of America's leading digital content agencies, and has a blue chip list of clients. So here to lead the summit and start us off, please welcome Lisa Apolinski.
Well, thank you.
This is the jazz hand applause, Lisa. Okay.
Jazz hand applause. I love it. Well, thank you. I am sharing my screen, so hopefully you can see it. And my computer is very sensitive right now. So thank you all for joining. I know there are some more individuals trickling in. My name again is Lisa Apolinski. I run a full service digital consulting agency called Three Dog Right. And we work with clients who want to accelerate revenue and take market share using digital means. And over the last 10 years, my founder's birthday will be next month, March 3rd. I've been in business for 10 years. I can't believe that. 10 years I've been running my own company. Over the last 10 years, I have helped clients create over $1 billion in new revenue, and that is billion with a B. One of the reasons why clients are able to find and create this revenue is because they're following new thought patterns in the digital paradigm. And that's some of what I'm going to be sharing with you as well. I'm very excited about this. If you have questions, we're going to be stopping for Q&A. I want this to be a conversation. I want you to feel that you can ask me questions and get your questions answered. I actually looked at all of your comments when you registered, and thank you for that. You will go ahead and do that in the chat bar, and Henry is graciously going to host. And he will look at those questions. And when we get to those sections, we'll stop and do a little Q&A. So let's talk about what you said you are seeking for this conference. And I was actually really excited to see just about everyone made a comment of what they're hoping to get. There were some very clear underlying messages that you were looking for. First was consistency. How do we have consistency in our content and in the engagement of that content? That was one of the big ones. What are the latest trends? Help me to understand how to market in this crazy post-pandemic world. We're also seeing those types of questions, and we'll definitely be talking about that. How do I get and keep traction in my digital engagement? That is a great question. We absolutely want to figure out not only how do we start that process, but then how do we sustain it for long term? I know that Atik, Ahmed, and Christina had asked specifically around analytics. How do I use analytics, and are there any new trends in analytics? And I am going to touch on that very, very briefly. And Atik and Christina, I will actually send you a follow-up email so that we can actually have a further chat on it. Anyone who knows me knows that I am a data geek. I love doing data analysis. I actually, one of my masters, I have a master's degree in public health with a concentration in biostatistics. So I'm a statistics nerd. I actually thought about getting a PhD in math. So that tells you anything about me. And then last but not least, and really the most important concept, is how do we create digital marketing that leads to sales? How do we create digital marketing that leads to revenue? That is really why we are here. How can we touch, move, and inspire our audiences so that they purchase our products and services? Oop. Wow, this is really very sensitive. Sorry about that. So let's talk about harnessing the power of digital content. So when we think about digital content today, and we think about the type of content that's already existing in our digital universe, a lot of times companies will move towards a median ground and really something that's a little more safe for them, where they just focus on features and benefits. They're not really thinking about how they are sharing their content and telling their story. With my book, Persuaded with a Digital Content Story, that I co-authored with Henry, we talk about how that is certainly one way of engaging with your audience, but there is a more powerful way to engage with your audience, and that is through storytelling, the power of gab. If you think back to your childhood and you think about how you were read stories when you went to bed, and if I said to you, once upon a time, you know you're ready for a fairy tale, or if I say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, you know that you are going to be getting ready for Star Wars. So there is a understanding and a hardwired thought process around storytelling. You move a little bit further along your path, and you've read books, you've gone to movies. Hollywood is very good at storytelling. It's a $1 billion or multi-billion-dollar industry, so they should be good at it. And the idea is to leverage that already understanding of sharing parables, sharing stories, to help us to relay our content, to help us relay who we are, why we exist, why we are positioned to help the person who is looking at our content, and how we can help them go from where they are now to where they want to go. The key component is that we're not selling, we're actually solving someone's problem. So it is solving versus selling. And if you think about the content that's out there today, there's a lot of random content that sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense, or it's off-putting. And by really looking at the power of digital storytelling to be very concise and think about how we are sharing and connecting with our audiences, we can eliminate random acts of content. We don't want to have random acts of content. We don't want to just put out content for content's sake. We want to look at how our content can touch other people, can move other people, can inspire other people. And when I was going through my presentation this morning, I actually thought, if you've watched the movie Pitch Perfect, you want to be Jesse and not Benji. So let's talk about that for a second. So in the movie Pitch Perfect, these two roommates are going to potentially audition for an a cappella group. And Benji is a awkward, socially a little bit off, is a magician, and then Jesse is the cool roommate. And when they're meeting the head of the a cappella group, the Troublemakers, Bumper, Benji comes off as creepy. He just comes off as creepy. They actually both have excellent talent for singing, and you actually see it when they do their auditions. They're both really talented performers and singers. The problem is Benji, with his communication, he misses the mark and they don't want to take him. And Jesse doesn't do that. He actually looks at his audience and follows their lead and doesn't come off as creepy. We want to try to be Jesse in our communications and not Benji, because you have the products and services that are going to help people, that are going to help them solve their problems, that are going to get them from point A to point B. And we want to move towards that Jesse scenario where our communication is powerful, it's appropriate, it's timely, it's relevant, and it adds value to our audience. So when we look at our digital content and we think about storytelling, if people already understand how a story goes and they can pull out the reference, they can look at the hero and say, that person's relatable. I understand what they're doing. And if they were able to go from point A to point B, I should be able to go from point A to point B. So when we think about that, wow, my computer is just being bananas today. I apologize. People are hardwired for stories, and your story matters. I'm going to say that again since my slides went cattywampus. People are hardwired for stories, and your story matters. The one thing that I want you to really take away from this is that I'm not saying that there's right or wrong, good or bad. I'm not adding any kind of moral compass to your content. I'm saying that there's one way of showing up for your clients, and then there's a different way of showing up for your clients. And when you think about what you're hoping your content does, and I'm actually going to go into a story example so you can see them side by side. We want content that doesn't just hit our audience and ricochet off of them, right? We want content that absorbs into them, that folds into their being, and they carry that content with them. They carry that message with them. They carry that inspiration with them as they move forward. So let's do time for a story here. I'm going to be sharing basically a similar story. I'm going to do, in one way, I'm going to share it the way I see people sharing their content today. And then another way, I'm going to show how a story-based content message can really help shift the conversation. And again, have people think about what you said a week from now, a month from now, maybe even a year from now. Think about that. If your content could be relevant and come up in a week or a month or a year, and they're able to see it, that would be something that you would want, I would hope. And I'm going to ask everyone if they can make sure that they're muted so that we don't have any background noise. So thank you. Okay, so in this scenario, let's say that my company now decides that they are going to be selling training for customer service. And we want to talk about customer service best practices. And one of our core really competencies and something that we bring to the table and to our engagement. So story number one is going to be what I see out in the marketplace today. And I want you to kind of hear what I'm saying and see how the story unfolds. So one of the things that we believe is important when we're doing customer service and customer service training is the use of best practices. And something that we make sure is brought into our training that we don't always see with our customers and our competitors is the idea of making sure that the customer has had all of his or her questions answered, so that when they have the survey at the end and they ask, were all your questions answered, it's a resounding yes. One of the ways we help with pushing this and helping people understand how to incorporate this is we ask our customer service representatives before they end a call to always ask the question, is there anything else I can do for you? By taking that pause and asking that question and giving the person on the other phone a chance to respond, we believe it helps to establish trust. It helps to make sure that the customer who's calling in has had all their needs met. And it really adds an extra layer of customer service and a touch point that can be very beneficial for your customer, especially if they're calling in for something that's frustrating. So that's a pretty standard way that I see people share their content, where they talk about the features and benefits of what they're doing and a component. And I'm not saying that that's bad. It's just one way. So let's talk about the second story. And you're probably going, my visit to Poland, that sounds interesting. So you're already interested, I'm hoping. So again, it's the same scenario, and I'm talking to you again about the same type of information, but I'm going to change it just slightly. I'll never forget one key memory I have of my visit to Poland. So if you can imagine, I'm in a very small town of Machiniec. This is where my ancestors grew up. My parents were first generation Polish. So I have many aunts and uncles and cousins who still live in Poland. And we had gone to visit right after I had graduated from college. And if you can imagine, we're walking down this small street. It's cobblestone with, very quaint houses and a beautiful church in the background, and the church is chiming. And there's a woman walking towards myself with my aunt, and she, at all purposes, looked like a babka, a grandma. She had the scarf on. She was carrying groceries that she was taking home to cook. She even had an apron on as she was walking down the street. And we were trying to get to another relative's home. And we passed her, and she said, come over and chat with me for a second. And my aunt in Polish said, we have to get going. We have to get over to, this other house. And she said a phrase, and I wish I could remember what it was in Polish, but she said a phrase, and my aunt translated it for me because I thought it was really powerful because I wanted to get it right. She said, you always have 1 minute to give to someone else. You always have 1 minute to give to someone else. And with that, we stopped for a minute and chatted, and were able to connect. To me, that's a really powerful message. And that's one of the things that I love about the training that we provide. We carry that concept of you have 1 minute to give to someone else. You can take 30 seconds or a minute to make sure that your customer has been heard, and that they're able to get off the phone and feel like their questions were answered and their problems were solved. And that is a key component in our training. That idea of you have 1 minute that you can give someone to make sure that they're okay. And that's what I love about working here because of that concept. Same information. I've given you the same information. The idea of stopping and asking and making sure that they're done, giving them that 1 extra minute. But I'm going to guess that the story of my visit to Poland, which is a true story, resonated more with you. I painted the picture of being on the streets of Machiniec and this grandma figure walking towards us and the comment that she made. And it really did impact me because I thought, you know what? She's absolutely right. You can find a minute to talk to someone. You don't have to rush off. She's absolutely correct. And to bring that into why one of the things we offer really incorporates that, helps to not only share that feature and benefit, but share it in a way that is relevant, that people can say, yeah, I can understand that. I can see where that's going, and I get it. I love that story, and I share it with others when I talk to them, especially when we're talking about, doing things for clients to have that minute to spare. But the difference between those two stories is the first one simply spouted out features and benefits to you that may or may not have been interesting and may or may not have been relevant to you at this time. The story I gave of my visit to Poland hopefully felt more relevant and felt like yeah, that's actually an interesting story. And I can see how that would impact what you do every single day. So when you're thinking about your content and you're thinking about how you are showing up and how you are sharing your story, and I really hope that you think about sharing your company story and that you don't discount it. There was a moment in time where your organization didn't exist, and then the next moment it did. There was a birthing moment, a creation moment that you, 1 minute, the company didn't even exist in your founder's head, and the next minute it did. And that's a powerful moment, and people want to hear that. They want to hear those stories because they're relevant, because they're interesting, because they're impactful, and they're inspiring. So please, please, please make sure when you're thinking about your content, when you're thinking about how you're moving forward with your information, that you think about how you can share your items in a story formula so that you're kind of sneaking in your features and benefits, but you're telling something that is relevant and helps them envision the success that your company can bring if they engage with you. And I'm going to do a quick aside. If you are like, hey, sounds like you have a formula for that. In fact, I do. If you go online and purchase Persuaded with a Digital Content Story, there is a 6-step digital content story formula within the book. It will help you to walk through the key roles and how to use them. They'll help you to set up details so someone can envision themselves in your story. They'll help you to move to where you are talking about how your features and benefits helped someone, what they got out of your products and services. And it will end with a moral, because we all want to hear a moral of a story. We want to tell people, if there's one thing I can have you walk away from this conversation, it would be, and we bring it home. And it's a great formula, and you can use it for everything. And when I say digital content, I mean all your digital content, your website, your landing pages, your educational content, your videos, your podcasts, your webinars, your white papers, your social media posts, your email. All of it can be formulated into parables and stories. And again, people are hardwired for stories, and your story matters. So be sure that you are sharing your story and sharing why your company exists and why it is important that people know that you are this wealth of knowledge and information and guidance and expertise that can help them to succeed in whatever it is that they're looking for, because that will help your content stand far beyond other people's contents, your competitors' content. Don't feel that I have to talk about features and benefits. You are talking about features and benefits, but you're doing it in a slightly different angle. And I'm going to see if there are any questions at this point before I move on. I see there are a lot of chats in the chat window. So
yeah, Lisa, I have 2 questions for you.
Awesome.
First one comes from Steve, and you just covered it, but it'd be great if you recapped it. Steve was wondering, what's your definition of a digital content story? Could you walk us through all the opportunities for a digital content story?
Oh,
again?
sure. So when I talk about digital content, I talk about anything in the digital space where you are communicating why people should read your content, listen to what you have to say, learn more about your organization, purchase from you, learn from you, all of those things. So again, anything where you're communicating to others through the digital space, and I'll name them again: email, video, social media, website, landing pages, blogs, podcasts, white papers, virtual webinars, all of that, even your photos. tell a story. So everything needs to be in the way of storytelling, because there are so much content on the internet today. If you're not really being strategic in how you are sharing your content and the way that you're sharing your content, again, don't be Benji, be Jesse. We want to really showcase what we can bring and let people feel that they can trust us and they can benefit from us, and that will bring them into the conversation with you.
Here's another one. It's from Nathan. And when you talk about your story matters, are you talking about the company story or our individual story? Both?
Yes, both, all of it. People are looking for stories. People want to be inspired. It can be your personal story. It can be your company story. And I want you to think about that question. The company story is based on an individual or individuals. So it's still human. It's still personal. And your story is a part of that company story. So I don't want you to think that you have to separate the two, because to me, they're chapters in a book, and you're simply sharing new chapters in a book.
Here's a follow-on question from Nathan. And it has to do with titling stories, maybe for articles or blogs, posts. Would you use My Visit to Poland as the title of that? Or would you have something about the product as the title, and then you go into your visit to Poland?
So when you think about titles, and I'm assuming you're thinking specifically for like a blog post or an article. And again, this can change in any minute. And that's why I love digital marketing, because what I say today could in fact change. And Henry, I'm sure you can jump in on this too. Titles such as 3 tips to, 1 reason why 1 minute does X. People like to see lists and things that are succinct, and they know, okay, if I read this article, I'm going to get 3 tips. Okay, if I read this article, I'm going to find out why 1 minute, 1 minute to better customer service. Things like that. People like to have numbers and structure within the title, but then you got to follow up with your content. You have to list it that way. And Henry, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Thank you for asking. Yes. And I started out as a magazine writer. And when you had the magazine in front of you, we were going for a clever title. So My Visit to Poland, as you flip the pages of a magazine, could pull people in. As I write for Forbes.com now, my editors measure me on views, and views are determined by if people searched for the title and it pulled them in. So to your point, yes, we're encouraged 3 ways to do this. Not to go in the direction of clickbait, where we're luring people in under false pretenses. But it has to seem relevant, or they might have done a Google search and came upon this. How-to titles work very well now, particularly because people search. And I download from time to time the top 1,000 Google searches, and I just look at what are people searching for and how can I create the titles to my columns on Forbes.com to appeal to those. So that's what I would say is, I think we need to have a clear benefit to the reader in that title and not go for clever or
Right.
puns.
Yes.
That doesn't work on the digital side.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Yes. And
I
I
have
love that
one more.
idea. If you want to see what's working, do it, what are the top Google searches and see how people are searching. That's how you learn. That's data. Yay.
Data. One more from Mel.
Hi, Mel.
And he says he wants to put us on the spot.
Yay. I love you, Mel.
So how was your invite for this webinar following the story formula?
So That's a really good point. So it was a partial story and a partial not. So when I'm doing a webinar invite, I'm showcasing what's going to be happening within the event. But I did, and I'm going from memory here, Mel. So, if you need to correct me, please do, because I love you. When you're doing a webinar event invite, you're talking about what the problem is and how this talk is going to help people solve it. So you're setting it up in a slightly different way, but it still is a Hollywood storyline. He had the perfect marriage, that kind of a thought process. I probably could have, if I wanted to do it a little bit differently, I could have said, I could have made it a little more storyline, but I did set it up where it's what the issue is today, and then what I'm going to be helping you uncover. But
I would just add to that, Lisa, yes, and we're testing for webinars, and for that grabber, it's leading with the problem.
Yeah.
If you're a person who has this problem and then going from there, that's the grabber on that. It might take them to a landing page, and then the story can be developed in the landing page copy. I gave a speech once to a group of vice presidents of companies, and one had said, "Oh, I know who you are. You're the man responsible for us having to change every page on our website to start with a story." And I said, "How's that working for you?" "Great." I said, "Well, good. Then I am that guy." So those are the questions we have. So let me see if any more came in. Just comments, bravas, and atta girls. So from there, turn it back to you, Lisa.
Awesome. Thank you. So the first half of my talk, I wanted to talk about the power of digital content. The second half that I want to address is this new digital paradigm. What is fact? What is fiction? What the heck is going on? So let's talk about the fact portion. And I've made this a little more succinct for you because there's a lot of things I could go into, but to me, these are the two most important things that I'm seeing, especially with my Fortune 100 companies. And I want to make sure that you're gaining from their experiences, and in a lot of cases, their mistakes. I'll just say it outright. So what is fact? There is absolutely an increased focus on experiences. So what do I mean by that? When we talk about experiences, we're talking about digital experiences, and we're talking about how the user interacts with your brand. So how are they interacting with your website? Is your website easy to follow? Can I find information quickly? If I'm on a mobile app, how easy is it for me to go into it? I'm going to give you an example that happened to me today. And this is an example of a crappy user experience. I had to update my address on GoDaddy. Seems pretty simple. I was on my laptop trying to update my address on GoDaddy, the billings area. And every time I went into updating the address and I tried to scroll down to go to city, it would kill the window and I'd lose all my information. And I had to, just to update my billing address, go into a chat box, and I had to spend 15 minutes waiting for someone and then verifying my information just to update my billing address so that my credit card would work for the hundreds of dollars that I'm spending on GoDaddy. These experiences need to be better. There is no excuse for that. There's no excuse for why I can't go into the billing information and be able to just scroll down a little bit to see the entire window and to change my address. That's ridiculous. The other thing that you want to think about is your content is also creating an experience for your audience. Let's talk about educational content, because there's a lot of focus on educational content, and that's great. If the educational content is too basic, if it's too simple, if it's just a lot of copy and there's not images or graphics or video or something else, because people learn in different ways, you're missing opportunities to create a great user experience. So we want to think about how easy it is to use our content and the structure in which we've put our content. And if you're not sure, ask somebody who has nothing to do with your company, doesn't know anything about your industry, so they're not drinking the Kool-Aid, and have them go in and try to order something or test something or find something. And if they can't do it, then that's a huge amount of information, and you need to go back in and retool what you're doing. Simple is better, right? Simple is always better. The second point I wanted to talk about is understanding and using your data. It is more important now than ever before, because we're in some kind of crazy, Alice in Wonderland, going down the rabbit hole. God knows what's going on, where everything is shifting like every single day. And to know what's going on with our content and how people are engaging and how well our digital assets are playing out in the universe, we need to look at our data. If you are not looking at your data, if you're not familiarizing yourself with your data, you're not only missing opportunities for more engagement or better engagement with your content and your digital assets, you're also missing when things might go off the rails. And if I could give you a warning, light where you go, oh no, and then you fix it, why wouldn't you want to take that? Why wouldn't you want to use that right now? It's really important. I mean, it was important before, but I really think in the environment we are in today, in this post-pandemic world, that understanding our data, using our data, and leveraging our data becomes vitally important, because again, it can give us opportunities for growth, and it can help when bad things are coming our way. And if you want a little more information on that, my book, Weathering the Digital Storm, which I actually wrote in 2019 because I knew something bad was coming, can help you with leveraging your data. So let's talk about things that I've heard out in the Ethernet or Ether universe, and that I've actually heard people say, well, my agency said this, or my marketing person said that. Let me address a couple of these. What is fiction? More is better when it comes to digital content. So we don't want to do random acts of content. And Brenda actually had asked, is it better to be consistent and have consistent content, or is it better to have value add? And I'm going to say yes. And when we talk about content, it's not just pumping out content for content's sake. We want to look at how our content is being leveraged, how our content is driving our calls to action that we're looking for, because you don't just make content because you think it's fun. You're making content because you want to, and you can fill in the blank. Have people fill out a lead generation form, have people attend a webinar, have people go to your website, have people look at your products and services. There's something that you are hoping they do as a result of your content. If you're not clear as to what that is, get some clarity around it. And then look at the content you have and see if you just made content for content's sake, or if you're using content to touch, move, and inspire to move them to a call to action. The other thing that I keep hearing is email is dead, social media is dead, content is dead. Robin Ryan actually asked a really good question on the forum. She said, I noticed that LinkedIn has changed their algorithm yet again, and I can't get my content further up and out to more people. How can I get more eyeballs on my posts? And I love that. That's a great question. And they do this to trip us up. It's kind of like a test, right? And you're just like, bruh. What you have to think about is, when are you posting? How often are you posting? And what, like Henry was saying, what kind of grabber heading or title are you putting in your content? I know that one of the things within LinkedIn that definitely kind of, I don't want to say it bucks the algorithm, but it helps you with the algorithm, is the use of polls. Polls are a big thing on LinkedIn. I follow Ryan Patel. He's an entrepreneur and a CNN contributor. He's fantastic. And he does, I notice, a lot of polls where he asks questions that are relevant to what he's talking about, what he's researching, articles that he's writing, things that he's going to be talking about on CNN, and leveraging what LinkedIn has can help you to move your content up. And I think polls is one of those things. But again, it can't just be a random poll that has nothing to do with your brand and nothing to do with your products and services and what your company stands for. If you, people who know me know that one of the things that I watch to relax, and I know this is going to be silly, but I watch cleaning videos at the end of the day if I'm stressed. Like, I think it's awesome to watch someone who has like a completely destroyed kitchen because of their 5 children, and then they clean it. And it's very calming to me. When I first started watching and subscribing to these cleaning channels, and there's a lot of them out there, it's a little frightening. There was one channel that I subscribed to in particular, and I've been watching her for a while, and her, she did cleaning, and then she also did a little bit of DIY and decorating, but it was mainly cleaning. And then she purchased another home that she was going to turn into an Airbnb. And then suddenly all of her videos became demolition, construction, and that's not what her channel was founded on. And she lost a lot of subscribers and a lot of viewers because she switched lanes really abruptly. So when you think about your content on social media, your email strategies, your website landing pages and everything, it's not so much that those channels are dead. There may be something that you're doing that has shifted your audience away from your content. I hate to say that it's user error, but a lot of times it can be our own doing. When we think about email and social media and other types of digital communication, we want to be relatively consistent in who we are and why we're there. And we want to post in somewhat of a consistent methodology. But Brenda, I would tell you that if you were going to choose between posting every week and posting once a month or once every 2 months with content that is killer and it just is awe-inspiring, I would rather that you do the latter. I would rather, if you're going to send out emails, that you do one great email a month or every other month versus a whole month every week of 20% off, 20% off, 20% off. Those types of very, there's not a lot of thought in those. There's not a lot of strategy in those. And it's really just throwing almost digital coupons at people and thinking that's going to be sustainable. I would rather that you focus on really great quality content and allow that content, those posts, those email campaigns drive your strategy and your timing. And as you get better at it and you get more feedback that this is awesome, keep going, you will find other ways to share your content. I wanted to quickly give some bonus advice while I'm thinking about it. And I thought this would be really important. When you're looking at your email lists or your email, your CRM, your email platform, a lot of times we'll say email is dead because my engagement's going down. And it's really that your lists are kind of old and you haven't reviewed them. You haven't looked at your segmentation and you haven't made sure that your lists actually reflect the current prospect population and their customer journey. So I know it's a pain and my clients hate it when I say this, but every year you really should be going into your email platform and going through your list, seeing, is my segmentation still accurate? Are there certain clients that I should move? Oh, that's weird. I should move over to a different segmentation group or a different customer journey group and really review your list. And I know it's a pain. No one wants to do it. I understand. But if you do that and you refresh your lists, you're going to see that your open rates and click-through rates magically go up. And it's something that I think you should be doing every year. Your social channels, you need to figure out where your audience is and be in those channels. It drives me bananas when I hear other agencies say, you have to be on every single social channel. Be where your prospects and customers are. And your prospects and customers are not going to be on every channel. I am not on Pinterest because my clients are not on Pinterest. I don't need to kill myself to be on Pinterest because my prospects and clients are not there. They're on LinkedIn. It would be like if I invited you to my state, the great state of Arizona, so that you would go deep sea fishing. There are no oceans here. Why would you come here to deep sea fish? You would want to go someplace that has an ocean. So look at your social channels, and it is okay. I am giving you the ability to say, you know what? I'm not going to do X channel because I don't ever get any engagement there. And my customer base is not there. They're over here. Now, again, you have to pay attention and make sure you know where your customer base is, but it is okay to cull down your social media channels and be really good at 2 or 3 of them versus meh on all of them. I'd rather you be really awesome and rock it on a couple of them versus killing yourself and spreading yourself thin on all the social channels that there are. And the final comment, and I already kind of talked about this already, but you want to discover your digital thread. There's something within your company story, your your mess of success, what you offer that is an overarching theme. So for my organization, mine is around leveraging communications. It's in my company name, 3 Dog Right. I founded and started because I was creating content for clients, and that has not changed. That focus on how we are communicating, how we show up, how we share our knowledge and our products and services is an underlying theme in every single blog post, video, podcast, every single thing. I'm not going to talk to you about, building a deck, which you wouldn't want me to because I know nothing about building a deck. Even if I did know something about building a deck, that's not why you're here. You're here to learn about digital marketing. So know what your red thread is and pull it through. Have that beautiful, consistent, overarching message. We know for Star Wars, there's how many Star Wars movies and The Mandalorian and all those one-offs, right? But there's still one key red thread, and that is the force. The force, the force, the force. May the force be with you. That is the red thread. So discover your red thread and bring it through all of your digital stories and your content. I feel like I've been rambling. I would like to see if there are questions.
Oh,
before I continue.
you're not rambling. You're doing great. I was doing that red thread. The force is the red thread. I seem to remember reading a certain book, and the kingdom is the thread that goes through all that, but that's another story. Patrick had a question. Why does LinkedIn promote personal updates so much, and we don't really get the business stories coming out of that? Do you have a thought on that, Lisa?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Patrick. So LinkedIn promotes or pulls into your storyline content that other people have found interesting and have commented or liked. I actually noticed today on LinkedIn, I got a post on my feed from a woman named Jennifer. She blew up on LinkedIn. God, I want to say like 2 years ago. She's a marketing professional. She was being kind of like bullied at her job and everything because she is, slightly overweight, things of that nature. And she felt ashamed of sharing her picture, and she shared it and shared her story. And she got so many followers, and I hadn't seen anything from her in a while. And she actually shared a personal story today or yesterday, and it came on my feed, and I was actually excited to see it. I think it had like 200 comments on it. So, and I was like, oh, something from her. And then I was like, oh my gosh, she's still struggling. She had a job interview and it didn't go well. And she felt, kind of belittled during the interview, and she was really upset about it. And she showed a picture of her just kind of, with her, just being comforted. And it was lovely. So I think what LinkedIn does, which is the same as what Facebook does, unless you pay for having your content promoted, is it's really about what your network is saying is of value. You can also kind of help change the algorithm a little bit if you comment or like more business types of posts. I have lately been liking a lot of these personal story posts, so I get more personal stories fed to me in my feed. That is what I would suggest. But I also would suggest, Patrick, to not completely poo-poo the personal stories. See how they're set up and see why they're getting engagement, and see what you can do to R&D, rob and duplicate.
Lisa, thank you so much. And Patrick, maybe you and I should consider some more YouTube videos of us cleaning the house. Going to Brenda. Brenda's not so much a comment, I'm sorry, not so much a question, but a comment about letting that great quality content drive strategy. So just wanted to give you a brava on that. Nathan had a question, which is like, why do we park on driveways and drive on parkways? And why is there an interstate highway in Hawaii? He's wondering, when will we be talking about the post-pandemic? And then when will we be talking about the post-pandemic? So,
yeah.
And all that, and when that will happen.
Yeah. I would say, actually the next book that I'm Henry, it's okay if I hope it's okay that I mentioned this.
Go ahead.
So the next book that I have written that is coming out hopefully in the spring, it is called Grow Your Market Share in a Zombie Apocalypse. So I want to tell you that whatever is happening right now, and this whole idea of let's get out of it, it's kind of like out of the frying pan into the fire. I think there's going to be something else coming around the corner. No one could have predicted a pandemic. Who knows? It could be a meteor that's going to hit the earth. It could be a zombie apocalypse. It could be, Hawaii takes over the United States. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Something's going to happen. So I would not necessarily be focusing on what are we going to get out of this. I would focus on what shifts can I make now and what habits can I make now, because something else is coming. You think you're out of the woods yet? You're not, and you're not going to be. Sorry.
Well, Lisa, you frightened me greatly because the digital storm book, you predicted something bad is coming. We don't know. Something bad this way comes. We don't know what, but it did. And now it's like you ain't seen nothing yet. Well, we're at that point where you wanted me to remind you that we should take a 5-minute break.
Yes,
and
I'm
come back
going to
with our
just
panel
quickly.
of experts.
Yes, I'm just going to quickly say some key takeaways, because again, if I want you to walk away with 3 things, I'm going to give you 3 things that I want you to walk away from. Solve versus sell. Always think about what your user's experience is and share your story, because those stories matter.